Hello everyone, I'm Erica Randall and my topic is if a child should be able to decide their own end-of-life care. There's been a story in the news recently that has brought this to people's attention across the globe. So let's begin. It is no secret that when a couple becomes parents for the first time, they tend to be overprotective and very worrisome. A lot of parents read parenting books or web articles that make them scared of the 1 in a million possibilities that are very unlikely. However, what if your child does end up being that 1 in a million? This is the story of a 5-year-old girl named Juliana Snow that was born with Charcot-Marie tooth disease, CMT. This disease attacks and weakens muscles, and she has a genetic mutation of it that makes it life-threatening. However, this is not the story of a 5-year-old with life-threatening disease, but the story of the choice that this 5-year-old was faced with. Heaven or hospital? Her answer is changing conversations about death across the country. It all started January 30th, 2013. Juliana started to come down with a cold. Eventually that cold turned into her having trouble breathing. The doctors gave her a round of antibiotics and an oxygen tube for her nose. They told the family that she would be okay to go home again in a few days. However, that was not the case. She spent 11 days in the ICU with troubled breathing. Up until this point, CMT had only weakened the muscles in her arms and legs, but it was now attacking the muscles that allowed her to breathe properly. On October 2013, it was time to break the news to Juliana's parents that she might not make it. She had been to the hospital 3 times in the past 10 months. She had developed scoliosis from the weakening of her muscles, and she wasn't getting any better. In fact, she was getting worse. She could no longer walk or sit up without support, and it was getting hard for her to breathe and cough. Therefore, mucus buildup was causing her to catch pneumonia. If she got another infection, the doctors were not sure they'd be able to help her. The doctors then gave the family 2 options if she did catch an infection. They could either bring her to the hospital, where she could undergo a series of painful procedures that weren't even certain to work, or they could forego treatment and keep her at home and comfortable. But it was most certain that she would die. During her stays at the hospital, the 4-year-old was very open about how much she hated it. She would have NT suction tubes put down her throat and nose to get the mucus out of her lungs multiple times a day. She could not be sedated because it was too dangerous. Therefore, she felt everything. Strong children usually scream and resist. However, Juliana was too weak, so all she did was softly cry. When her mother tried to explain why they did it, she said that it would keep her alive longer, so wasn't it worth it? When Juliana didn't answer, that is when her mom knew it was time to talk. Her mom, Michelle, asked her then, age 4, if she would want to go back to the hospital for more treatments or die at home. Little Juliana chose heaven over hospital. But now the question was, could her parents abide by her wishes? Her mother explained to her that if she went to heaven, Mommy and Daddy and her brother wouldn't be there with her for a little while. Juliana said she understood and that she wouldn't be alone. God would be there. She told her mother how much she loved her, but she knew she would be okay in heaven. Up until this point, Juliana's parents had planned on taking her back to the hospital, but after talking to their daughter, they knew they couldn't. This is when the problems started across the world. Many people were very supportive of her parents' decision. However, others thought she made the wrong choice. Unbelievable that any parent would think a 4-year-old is able to understand or make a decision on life, commented one mother of a child with a chronic illness. Clearly that mother asks her leading questions. This article sickens me. This has brought up the issue, should a child be able to decide their own end-of-life care? Bioethicist Art Kaplan has read Michelle's blogs and articles and thinks she has made the wrong decision. This doesn't sit well with me. It makes me nervous, he says. I think a 4-year-old might be capable of deciding what music to hear or what picture book they might want to read, but I think there's a 0 chance a 4-year-old can understand the concept of death. That kind of thinking doesn't really develop until around age 9 or 10. However, Dr. Freudner, the chairman of the American Academy of Pediatrics section on hospice and palliative medicine, disagrees. He says, to say her experience is irrelevant doesn't make any sense. She knows more than anyone what it's like to be not a theoretical girl with a progressive neuromuscular disorder, but to be Juliana. Palliative care isn't about giving up, it's about choosing how you want to live before you die, he says. This little girl has chosen how she wants to live. After reading these comments, her parents and Juliana's nurses and doctors gave their input. Dr. Dana Hsieh, her pulmonologist, observes that Juliana is wiser than most 5-year-olds. In that case, it makes a lot of sense to listen to her. I have the utmost faith in her mother and father. They're phenomenal parents and have her best wishes at heart, he says. Both her nurses and doctors agreed that it's one thing to hold a screaming child down when you know the treatment will help. It's another to do so when you know there will be no success in the end. So for now, Juliana is spending her time in her princess room at home. She is constantly wearing different princess dresses and pretending her bed is Aladdin's magic carpet. She spends a lot of time FaceTiming family and playing with her parents as much as she can. So far, the past year has been really good for the family, Michelle says. However, they know that even a slight cold could turn things around, and when the time comes, Juliana and both her parents will make the decision they think is right. Since this article came out November 4th, 2015, there has been much being done to help Juliana. $6,000 was donated to do a whole genome sequencing on Juliana so they can pinpoint the gene causing her disease to be this severe. Even though it might not help Juliana this late in the game, it could save others' lives in the future. After reading the article, Mr. Snow, her father, stated that Juliana is a bright light. Maybe she has something to teach the world. This topic is important to me because of my future as a nurse. I eventually want to work in pediatric ICU, so I was very interested in this topic. Therefore, I thought I could do a better presentation on something I was interested in and passionate about. As a nurse, I will see people suffer, and I will have to be with the patient at all times. There may come a time when the doctor asks my opinion, and I need to be ready to give the best answer I can, even if it's not what anyone wants to hear. If I were a world leader, I would let the decision be up to the child and the parents. Ultimately, it is not the child making the decision. It is the parents. In this case, Juliana is just giving her opinion, and the parents are taking it into consideration. She is very sick, and her doctors and nurses all say no matter what is done, she is going to pass away, so why not let it be in the comfort of her own home? The objective my topic is addressing is understanding the concepts of individual human rights and liberties. Even though Juliana is only 5 years old, she still has rights and liberties, and so do her parents. They are not doing anything wrong or illegal by giving their child the life she wants to live while she is still here on Earth. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you all have a great week.